I'm Catherine Ross, and I'm here live from the NYC with Jim Cramer. Jim, let's kick it off by going unfiltered. What's on the top of your mind?
Juul. Sometimes you are a parent and you're a son-in-law, you're a relative, and I like to be as objective as possible. I'm just trying to figure out how to help people make money. That's always been my true north. And this Juul is a cancer on people. And I am so glad that this man Burns, who was a great proselytizer based on health, but then had the duplicity to tell Carl and Carl Quintanilla that he didn't want his kids to take this. To me, his leaving is the beginning of the end of this travesty of a mockery of a sham that Altria funded because Altria is worried about the long-term decline in smoking. Sometimes you make a product and that product shouldn't be made. Now, I can say, well, listen, alcohol shouldn't be made. We tried that. Temperance had failed. That maybe they shouldn't allow machine guns. The NRA owns Congress. But before Juul owns Congress and before Juul owns the FDA, I'm not proud of how the FDA handled it. I was hoping to shut this down, having lost loved ones to cancer. And yes, is it personal? It's 100% personal because I don't want kids dying, and nor does my wife. And I think sometimes you just got to take a stand. So someone can say, well, Jim, why aren't you taking a stand against Monsanto and Roundup? Well, look, I have plenty of stands I could take. There's a lot of products I don't like. But this one was one that was just now started. And it's not powerful enough yet to stop the parents who want it stopped. Alcohol's too powerful. Guns are too powerful. We can't stop tobacco. We have ATF, which is, they should fund it. So this was one that you could try to stop before it got out of control. And I think it's being stopped. And so I'm thrilled. Do I want the 4,000 people of Juul to be hurt? No, I always want it. That's why I want it to be a prescription product. If it really does, like they say, help people get off smoking, I'm not being facetious, make it a prescription product. Hey, listen, I've lost money in deals. Did some things. They didn't work. Juul didn't work. Take your lumps, move on. But it didn't work because we caught on to you. And we caught on to you in time into what you were doing. And it's too bad. Your game plan failed. You weren't able to fool the American people, and shame on you, but you can still be a prescription product. And sometimes you have to take a stand. And I would be embarrassed if I left this earth and I did not take a stand against Juul because I was so worried about being an objective journalist versus being a parent or a son-in-law who lost someone to lung cancer who was begging for a cigarette. I saw that happen. Am I supposed to just forget about it? Am I supposed to check my life at the door of journalism? Does my journalism card not let me assail people who have tricked youth into taking a product? Look, I used to do the DARE speech every year in Summit at the middle school, trying desperately to get underage kids to not do things, drugs, smoking. Did I ever stop that because I said I'm a journalist? Did I ever say, I can't give that DARE speech, Chief Weck, because that would compromise me? I mean, I can't be that person. I'm 64 years old. I have children. I don't want them to die. And now you can't, there are things there's nothing you can do about, but how about if you take an option away that could? That's a nice thing. It's a good thing to do. And I can live with myself, and I want to live with myself. And I want to say things that just because I'm a journalist doesn't mean I can't say, especially after I have two eyes. I have things that I've seen. The great journalists of our time have taken stands, whether it be Silent Spring, whether it be the slaughterhouses in Chicago. They have taken stands. I am not going to sit here and be objective about something that can still be stopped. And I'm glad that the U.S. Attorney is looking into it. I'm glad that the FDA is finally off its ass, trying to protect us. And, you can just say, well, Jim, I can't believe your lack of objectivity, or Jim, how can you not take on alcohol, whatever. The moral equivalence doesn't mean anything to me. What matters is that I go to parties and we host kids and they're all juuling, and it can be stopped. And look, I can make you money. I demonstrated the ability to do that since 1979. But periodically, I like to have a heart. And I got a heart. And I'm not going to steal it because Altria gave a lot of money to them. There, I said it. I'm off my soapbox, but go ask your kids. I don't want more children to die. They will get hooked. and many will die. And that just seems like, well, you know what? Why not mention it? Okay, I'm done. But you asked what was top of my mind. That was top of my mind.
We did ask. There's one correction I want to make, which is not that you don't have just periodically a heart. You do have a heart, period.
Well, I've spent my career being a dollar sign represented by a man, and I know that. My kids have been all over me to stop being just a person who helps me make money. My daughter has said, how can you live with yourself? How can you know things and not say them? How can you be objective, so to speak, about an island of plastic in the Pacific? How can you be objective about tobacco? And I have to respond to youth, respond to millennials who are really onto my act. I didn't think it was an act. I thought I was doing everything I could to make people money. But was I doing everything I could to help people in health, to help the planet? Am I not a stakeholder of the earth? So I am done with just being a dollar sign represented by a man. I don't know how much longer I am going to be on Earth, but Earth is an important. We're stakeholders in the Earth, and this notion of objectivity as the planet is being ruined, it's outrageous. I mean, I can sit there and say I want a beach house, and I don't want it anywhere near the shore because of global warming. I wanted to be 3 miles in, but I'm not supposed to mention that. The late Jerry Fishman, the man who ran Travelers, passed away, told me that he wouldn't write insurance near the beach because of global warming. So so I recommend Travelers. I don't talk about that. So I have had to rethink what I do for a living. And if people are unhappy with that, you can change, you can turn me off. But I have to respond to my children who have said that I have committed grave sins by just trying to help people make money. And I resent my old self. And you can go read Confessions of a Street Addict and you know exactly what I mean. That person who wrote that book is a sinful person who did not do the right thing. And I was was able to live long enough to recognize that. I traded Alcoa the day that my second child was born. And that was shameful. And I recognized that, and I was fortunate enough to live long enough to recognize it. So I have a conscience, and I'm going to talk about it on issues like Juul. I still spend 95% of my time trying to help you make money, but that 5% allows me to let me see my kids and not feel like I'm the disgrace that they think I am.
And on the topic of climate change,
they don't think I am. They don't think I am because they recognize impact per share. They recognize how I pivoted. They recognize that I listened and I have changed. And I am not the person that I want to be, but I'm getting there.
And on the topic of climate change, I'm more than happy to send more great journalistic pieces on my Twitter feed for all of you guys that are interested in reading that. Now, Jim, I do want to switch over to politics.
Climate change is so important. And, what did I do for climate change? Recommend Dow Chemical? Look, I made mistakes. But I made mistakes, but I own those mistakes, and I'm trying to change. I'm not having an existential meltdown. I'm just telling you what's really going on about why I'm so focused on Juul. That's my wife pulling Juuls out of people's mouth because she didn't want people to lose children. And my wife says, "Are you just going to talk about the earnings per share being hurt for Altria? Is that what your contribution to life is? Is that like what you do because you're on CNBC and you're TheStreet and you feel like that's what you do? Is that really all you do?" So, I've got to face up to the fact that I have people in my life, whom I love, who are saying to me, is that all, at the age of 64, is that all you're going to do? Is just say, buy Travelers, sell Altria? So I'm listening. I'm listening and I'm acting. Listening and acting.
Let's switch over to politics. Now, the House Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, announced a formal impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi told you that she was waiting to see where the facts lay.
Well, she has changed her mind from when I interviewed her last week. She obviously this Biden issue they think is black and white. Very good article in the New York Times about why they triggered this. I do think that it could spell the end to the U.S., Canadian, Mexican accord, which is really bad. That's very bad for a lot of businesses that were counting on it, whether it be UPS, whether it be GM. I think GM's a short. This is something that even as recently as last week I thought was a done deal. But I can't think that now if Pelosi's going against the president. This is something that I did some numbers. It's not necessarily, as I wrote in Real Money, it's not necessarily the worst thing. But the last time that we had the charade of Clinton, because we knew he wasn't going to be found guilty, the market did quite well. The Republicans have shown you need a 2/3 majority in the Senate. So this is a charade. You're not going to get 2/3 majority. No Republicans have broken with him. This isn't Nixon. So you're going to have to deal with this. And people are going to sell stocks every time there's a new phase, like when the Judiciary Committee says we're going to take it up, and then the Judiciary Committee is going to refer to Congress, to the full House, and the stock's going to go down then again. So you've got a couple of milestones. This is a PE lowering event, but you have to continue to try to find the Nikes. You can't just give up. And you can't just let Washington make you give up to trying to find the next Walmart or the next Target or the next Costco or the next Home Depot.
Now, you just mentioned impact per share earlier,
Yes.
which is one of your acronyms, but you have a new one, which is partisan acrimony per share. Can you break down what that is?
And that's just a recognition after I had great high hopes for the U.S. Mexican-Canada Accord, which was going to be so good for American workers and good for American business. And so you take that off the equation, what that does is lower the per share thing that I'm talking about there is it lowers the price earnings multiple of companies that do business or have business across continents. It's a reason not to own Ford, which is trying so hard. But it's really a reason not to own GM. Maybe a reason not to own Lear. Maybe a reason not to own Magna. Continues the travails of the problems of the autos. I would sell KSU. Maybe a quick trade there. But it would have been, as someone who does substantial business in Mexico, it would have raised wages in Mexico, which would have made it so that a lot more businesses would stay in America. I know Speaker Pelosi wanted to do this because it would help the American working person, but I think that they just are no longer willing to give Trump any wins. The big issue when I spoke with her last week was if you agree to the new NAFTA, so to speak, that does give Trump a win. She came back, it gives the American working person a win. But it's very, very hard to have a working relationship with someone you're trying to impeach.
Before we wrap, I do want to, sorry, I thought my phone was falling out of my pocket. I do want to mention to people that we had a fantastic show over on bullmarketfantasy.com yesterday. So if you want to go for the full recap, head on over to TheStreet.com/fantasy or bullmarketfantasy.com. And Jim, I want to thank you for all of your insight because I think this was a very important show.
Now, Bull Market Fantasy, let me just explain to people. I've been playing fantasy since 1979, so I consider myself to be at least a long-term one. I've won several times. Most importantly, what we're trying to do is have fun, but also give you action-oriented pink sheet names, so to speak. People we're really bullish on. The people I know who are professionals in fantasy who've watched the show have complimented it. I'll be on John Hanson's show tomorrow. John likes it. John's one of the best there is. So it is fun, but it is filled with names. So if you're a fantasy aficionado, I'm putting together what I think is the best possible fantasy show after being a fantasy person for almost 40 years. One of the original people, when John Walsh at Inside Sports set up the first one, believe me, I'm not going to stop until I give you the best possible. Just like this, trying to give you the best possible, using some of the best minds, and it's a must-watch. And a lot of people tell me it's a must-watch whom I didn't even know were watching it. So anyway, unapologetic about that and unapologetic about actually having views about products to kill people.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We are now heading over to our Action Alerts Plus Daily Rundown Show over on actionalertsplus.com. I'm Catherine Ross, and we'll see you tomorrow.